There's a state of mind that makes distraction literally impossible. Not easier to resist. Impossible. You have probably never experienced it. Not truly. Not the way the men who trained for war experienced it. And before you say, I just have a short attention span, I need you to understand something that is going to change the way you see yourself. Attention span is not the problem. The problem is that you have never been trained. Samurai warriors in feudal Japan could hold absolute, unbroken focus in the middle of a battlefield, with swords swinging, men dying, chaos screaming around them. Not because they were gifted with superior concentration, because they followed a 5-law mental architecture that built focus the way you build a muscle. Systematically, deliberately, over time, that system still exists. And today, you're going to learn it. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why you cannot focus, exactly what the samurai built instead, and exactly how to apply it in the next 7 days. I want to describe something to you. You sit down to do the work. The intention is completely real. You open the document. You set the timer. You are ready. 8 minutes later, your phone is in your hand. You do not remember picking it up. You put it down. You return to the work. 6 minutes pass. Now you're thinking about something someone said to you 3 days ago. Then you're thinking about what you'll have for dinner. Then you're back on the phone. Sound familiar? Here's what you have probably told yourself. I have bad focus. I might have ADHD. This generation just can't concentrate. All of those stories are wrong. You do not have a broken mind. You have an untrained one. There is a massive difference between those two things. And that difference is the entire point of this video. When was the last time you worked for 90 uninterrupted minutes and felt completely absorbed, where time disappeared and the work poured out of you? If you can't remember, that is not evidence of a broken brain. It is evidence that no one has ever given you the system. Until now, Marcus had tried everything, every app, every system, every morning routine. I want to tell you about a man named Marcus. Marcus is 32 years old. He builds software for a living. He is intelligent, ambitious, and genuinely wants to operate at a higher level. He has read every productivity book. He has tried app blockers, cold showers, digital detox weekends, the Pomodoro technique, a stoic morning routine, and 7 different note-taking systems. And still, he cannot hold focus for more than 20 minutes before his mind begins to scatter. The first 15 minutes are always promising. Then something shifts. A thought surfaces. A tension somewhere in his chest. A pull toward the phone that he cannot fully explain. He has a self-diagnosis. I'm just wired differently. Maybe it's ADHD. Maybe I'm a creative, and creatives need to move around. All of those explanations have one thing in common. They let him off the hook. The real problem is not chemical, not neurological, not generational. Marcus has never been given a training system for his mind the way an athlete is given a training system for his body. He has spent years trying to manage distraction. He has never once tried to build focus. These are not the same thing. Distraction management is the equivalent of ducking punches every day and calling it boxing training. Focus training is learning at the level of reflex, not to flinch. That is what Marcus is about to discover. The samurai did not rely on willpower to focus. They built a mental architecture that distraction could not enter. What Marcus discovers, through months of reading classical Japanese martial arts philosophy, is something that completely reframes the problem. Samurai warriors were not born with superior focus. They were trained in 5 mental disciplines that built a quality of mind that distractions simply could not penetrate. These 5 disciplines were not tips. They were not hacks. They were not techniques you apply on a good morning and forget on a bad one. They were laws, structural properties of a trained warrior's mind that made distraction not difficult to resist, but architecturally impossible to sustain. This system has a name. We will call it what it is. The 5-law focus architecture. The 5 laws are Zanshin, Mushin, Ichijiozumai, Ma, and Fudoshin. Each one attacks distraction at a completely different level. The first removes the fragmented mental state you bring to every work session before you even begin. The second dissolves the internal voice that pulls you away from the task. The third builds the habit of absolute single-pointed action. The fourth gives your focus system the recovery structure it needs to sustain itself. And the fifth makes you immovable, regardless of what your environment does. Together, they build something most modern men have almost completely forgotten how to have. Zanshin is not intense concentration. It is the opposite. It is relaxed, complete presence, like still water that reflects everything clearly. The first law is called Zanshin. In Japanese martial arts, Zanshin translates as remaining mind. After a samurai completed a sword technique, he did not relax. He did not drop his focus. He maintained a state of total, relaxed, present moment awareness that left nothing behind and projected nothing forward. The mind remained exactly here, exactly now. Most people never begin their work in a state of Zanshin. They sit down carrying yesterday's conversation, the argument they had this morning, the email they haven't replied to, the errand they forgot. They open a document while simultaneously running 3 other mental threads in the background. And they wonder why their focus is fractured from the very first minute. Zanshin is not about intense, forced concentration. It is the exact opposite. It is the quality of still water that reflects everything clearly because nothing is disturbing its surface. Here is the Zanshin practice, and it takes 90 seconds. Before you begin any focused work, you stop completely. You sit still, eyes forward or softly closed, hands on the desk or in your lap. You breathe slowly without effort. You do not start the work until the mental water is still. You are not meditating. You're not doing a breathing exercise. You're doing what the samurai did before entering combat. You are arriving completely before you begin. Most people skip this step because 90 seconds feels like wasted time. The samurai understood that 90 seconds of Zanshin was worth 2 hours of fractured attention. The second law is Mushin. In Zen martial arts, Mushin means no mind or empty mind. It does not mean the absence of thought. It means the absence of attachment to thought. Here is the critical distinction that most people miss when they try to improve their focus. They try to suppress distracting thoughts. They try to push them away. They try to concentrate harder, as if mental force could silence the internal noise. This is exactly wrong. Trying to force your mind away from a distracting thought is like trying to stop water flowing downstream with your hands. The effort creates more turbulence, not less. Mushin does not fight thoughts. It does not engage them at all. A thought that receives no reaction has no power. Samurai swordsmen trained until they could respond to an attack with zero mental calculation. The response came from a mind so clear of deliberation that the only thing present was the action itself. The modern application of Mushin is this. When a distracting thought appears during focused work, you do not suppress it. You do not follow it. You observe it the way you would watch a cloud pass across the sky. You know it exists, and you return to the work. Without drama, without struggle, without giving the thought the one thing it needs to survive. Your attention, over weeks of practice, the intrusive thoughts do not disappear, but they lose all grip, because you have consistently starved them of what they need to hold you. In the silence, 5 new thoughts appeared immediately. A worry, a task he forgot, an email he should send. Marcus tries Zanshin on day 1. He sits. He attempts 90 seconds of stillness before beginning his work. In the silence, 5 thoughts appear immediately. A deadline he forgot, a conversation he needs to have, a worry about money, an idea for a different project, hunger. He tries Mushin. He tries to watch the thoughts without following them. He fails 3 times in the first session. On the 4th attempt, one thought surfaces, drifts, and dissolves on its own without him following it. A small thing, almost invisible, but it happens. What he does not expect is the discomfort. There is something almost painful about sitting still with nothing stimulating the mind. The pull toward the phone is not just habit. It is withdrawal. He has never been truly alone with his own mind. Not really. For years, there's always been a screen, a soundtrack, a stimulant. The silence of Zanshin is unfamiliar at a cellular level. By day 3, the entry takes 40 seconds instead of 90. His first focused work block stretches to 34 minutes. Unbroken. The longest stretch he can remember in years. One thing becomes clear to him with an almost physical force. I was never distracted. I was never trained. One task visible. One window open. One intention active. The samurai gave themselves completely to one act. The third law is Ichijiozumai. It is a concept from Zen Buddhism adopted completely by samurai culture. The translation is total absorption in one act. The samurai applied this to everything. Cleaning a sword, eating a meal, walking across a courtyard. Each action received the totality of attention available. Nothing was done halfway. Nothing was done alongside something else. The modern man does the opposite of this as a default. 6 browser tabs, music playing, a text conversation running in the background, 2 other tasks mentally queued, ready to hijack attention the moment the current task requires any effort. This is not focused work. This is distributed attention performing an impersonation of focused work. Every time you split attention, you pay a cognitive switching cost. Each task switch leaves what researchers call attention residue, a partial mental engagement with a previous task that follows you into the next one. After 3 attention splits in an hour, no task has received true focus. You have given everyone a third of yourself and called it productivity. The Ichijiozumai rule is absolute. 1 task visible, 1 window open, 1 intention active for the entire focus block. No exceptions. This is not a tip. It is the structural condition without which real focus is impossible. You cannot be fully here when part of you is still somewhere else. Ichijiozumai demands something that most modern men have quietly decided they cannot afford. Complete commitment to the present act. The 4th law is Ma. In Japanese aesthetics and martial philosophy, Ma means negative space, the meaningful interval, the deliberate emptiness between actions that determines the quality of everything that follows. In combat training, skilled samurai used Ma as a weapon. The pause between exchanges was not weakness. It was structural recovery that made the next action sharper, faster, and more decisive. Most modern men do one of 2 things with rest. They either push through exhaustion, grinding against a focus system that is run dry, wondering why their output is garbage after hour 3. Or they feel guilty when they stop, so they fill the rest period with more input, social media, videos, messages, and return to work in a worse state than when they stopped. Both are failures to understand what Ma actually is. Ma is not passive recovery. It is active emptiness. The protocol is this: 50 minutes of complete Ichijiozumai focus. Then 10 minutes of genuine Ma. No screen, no input, no task. You stand up. You walk. You look out a window. You let the mind do what it was built to do when given space, consolidate, breathe, and rebuild. What Ma is not: checking Instagram, watching a short video, answering a quick message. Those are not rest. They're focus debt. You are borrowing from the next session. A warrior who does not allow his sword arm to recover will eventually drop the sword. Schedule Ma. Protect it. And watch what happens to the quality of every focus block that follows it. The mind that cannot be shaken by interruption, noise, or provocation. Absolute mental stability regardless of what the environment does. The 5th and final law is Fudoshin, the immovable mind. In warrior training, Fudoshin was the quality of mind that could not be shaken by any external provocation. Sudden noise, unexpected interruption, a threat entering the periphery. None of it could displace the warrior from his mental center. not because the distraction was not there, but because the mind had been trained not to be moved by it. This is the law that most people will resist most strongly, because most people believe, at some level, that their inability to focus is the environment's fault. The open office, the noisy apartment, the family that interrupts, the notifications, the construction outside. Feudoshin says the environment is irrelevant, not because you block it out, not because you find perfect silence, but because a trained mind does not require perfect conditions. Samurai students were deliberately startled and interrupted during training, not to torture them, to build in them a response pattern that could not be broken by anything external. The modern application: train focus deliberately in imperfect conditions. Occasional noise, a door that opens, someone talking nearby. Not to be careless about your environment, but to build a mind whose center holds regardless of what the environment does. Waiting for perfect silence before you can focus is the same as never focusing. Feudoshin does not wait. Feudoshin holds. His mind is not his enemy anymore. For the first time in his life, he actually knows how to use it. Marcus, 30 days into practicing all 5 laws. His average focused work session has gone from 18 minutes to 71. He has completed a project in 3 weeks that used to take him 3 months. Last Thursday, he worked for 2 hours in a noisy coffee shop and produced the best code he has written in years. Feudoshin. In practice, what surprises him most is not the productivity numbers. It is the quality of his presence in the rest of his life. Conversations feel different. He is actually listening instead of waiting to speak. Meals taste more like meals. Exercise is no longer something he endures while scrolling. He is simply here. The 5 laws did not just change how he works. They changed the texture of his entire existence. His colleagues notice. You seem different, calmer, like you've made a decision about something. He does not explain the 5 laws. He just nods. Because what would he say? That he spent 30 days learning to be present? That the samurai understood something about the human mind that 1,000 productivity apps miss completely? That the most important thing he ever did for his work, his relationships, and his sense of himself was to stop managing distraction and start training focus. The 5 laws are not a productivity system. They're a program for becoming a different quality of human being. A man with Zanshin is fully present in every room he enters. A man with Mushin is not at the mercy of his own thoughts. A man with Ichijiozamai gives everything to what he does instead of distributing himself across 10 things and mastering none. A man with Ma knows how to recover without guilt and return stronger. A man with Feudoshin cannot be moved by his environment, his mood, or the noise of the world. Is that not who you are trying to become? Not just more productive, but more present, more composed, more deliberate, more yourself. The samurai did not spend years on mental training because it made them marginally more efficient warriors. They did it because they understood something that modern culture has nearly forgotten. The quality of a man's mind determines the quality of his entire life. Not his circumstances, not his environment, not his phone settings or his app blocking software. His mind. And a mind can be trained. Distraction is not the enemy. An untrained mind is. And an untrained mind is simply a mind that has not yet been given the system it needs. You now have the system. Knowledge that is not practiced is not knowledge. The samurai had a word for a man who studied the sword but never trained. They called him a spectator. You are not here to be a spectator. So here is your 7-day focused training challenge. Write it down. Days 1 and 2. Zanshin. Before every work session, stop for 90 seconds. Sit still. Let the mental water settle. Do not begin until you have fully arrived. Days 3 and 4. Add Mushin. When a distracting thought surfaces during focused work, do not fight it. Observe it. Let it pass without following it. Return without drama. Days 5 and 6. Add Ichijiozamai. 1 task, 1 window, 1 intention. Close everything else. No exceptions. Day 7. Apply the full architecture. Zanshin entry. Mushin observation. Ichijiyoza my focus. Ma recovery. And begin building Fudoshin by training in one imperfect condition deliberately. Right now, in the comments below, write the one law you are starting with today. One word. Zanshin. Mushin. Ichijiyoza Ma. Fudoshin. One word. Right now. Before you close this tab, this channel exists for men who are serious about operating at the level their potential demands. If that is you, subscribe. The next video covers the samurai morning architecture that prepares the entire mind for a full day of Zanshin. You are not broken. You are not distracted by nature. You are not the victim of a screen-addicted generation. You are untrained, and now you have no excuse.